In this video, we're going to discuss what it means to play it safe during games and what you can do if you feel like you're playing it too safe. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, yesterday I was on a one-on-one coaching call with an athlete and we were discussing the idea of playing it safe. He's a soccer player and he was explaining to me how on the offensive side, he finds himself playing it safe a lot. And so what this looks like for him is that when he gets a pass to him, he immediately passes it back to one of the defensemen just to get rid of the ball. And as we were discussing why he's doing this, the main cause of passing the ball back to the defenseman and playing it safe for him was that he was afraid of losing the ball. And this is something that I see in a lot of different athletes where the idea of playing it safe is typically driven by this fear of making mistakes. Now, one of the things that he and I then began discussing was the actual reality of making mistakes. And so I asked him, I said, when you're playing it safe and you just pass the ball back to the defenseman, do you make less mistakes than if you were to hold on to the ball, dribble a little bit, try to use some skill moves, and then maybe pass it off up the field to try to make a pass that helps your team progress up the field and potentially score? And so then he thought about it for a moment. And what he was explaining to me then was that when he passes it back to the defenseman, so he's quote unquote playing it safe, he actually makes more mistakes than when he holds on to the ball, dribbles up the field, uses his skill moves, right? Makes a pass or two. He ends up making less mistakes when he plays more aggressively or plays more confidently. Now, this was pretty interesting because the idea was that he was afraid of losing the ball. And so because he was afraid of losing the ball, he was then playing it safe, which meant that he was just passing it back, making the easy pass back to the defenseman. However, while this felt safe, it was actually increasing the chances of him making mistakes. The same might be true for yourself because the same is true for a lot of different athletes that I work with, where the thing that feels safe actually leads to more mistakes. And even if it doesn't lead to more mistakes, it typically leads to ineffective play. And so with this soccer player, he and I were then discussing how even though it feels more uncomfortable to dribble the ball a little bit up the field and look for a better pass that actually progresses his team up the field, even though that feels more uncomfortable, it's technically the safer option. It's the option for him that will actually lead to success, that will actually lead to him being effective in helping his team instead of leading to a greater chance of losing the ball, which is the very thing that he is afraid of in the first place. Now, why is this? Why is it that the thing that we do which feels safe actually leads to more mistakes? Well, there are many reasons why this would happen, but one of the most common that I see in one-on-one coaching is that when we play it safe, we take ourselves out of the natural rhythm of the game, and we typically hesitate or make a poor decision. So with the soccer player, when he's just passing it back to the defenseman, he is hesitating and he's making a very soft pass that is easier actually for the defense to then steal. And it's also a pass that is not helping the team progress up the field. So even if he doesn't lose the ball, he's also not being very effective for his team. So he's taking himself out of the natural rhythm. Then what ends up happening is if he's in that mindset where he's wanting to play it safe, and he does then try to hold on to the ball, he's hesitating at that point. So then it's easier for the defense to steal the ball for him, and it's also more likely that he makes a poor decision because he is hesitating, he's second-guessing himself, and he's stressed about making a mistake. I see this in all the different athletes I work with in one-on-one coaching, which, by the way, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, I've put a link to that in the description below. So when we look at this idea of playing it safe, what we see is that in our minds, when we go out there thinking, I don't want to make mistakes, I want to avoid these negative things happening, it's natural for us to then play it safe. Unfortunately, playing it safe typically leads to more mistakes, and it especially leads to ineffective play. So what can we do about this? Well, the idea here is we want to recognize what our goal is when we're going into the game, but we also want to recognize that changing the way we're playing when we play it safe is a very difficult and slow process a lot of the time. So first, what we want to recognize is that when we're going into games and we feel ourselves stressed about making mistakes, or we are worried about making mistakes, that is likely the goal that we have in our mind. Now, the goal that we have in our mind, if it is about wanting to avoid mistakes, that goal will lead to safe play because our minds are trying to avoid the thing that we see as a negative, and mistakes are what we see as a negative. So then naturally, we're going to try to play it safe. But like I was saying, if you're playing it safe and that's leading to more mistakes, Even though it feels safe, it's actually the riskiest and the worst choice that you can make, even though it feels safe, right? Even though it feels comfortable. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to reframe what it means to play it safe for yourself. And so the idea that I was talking to the young soccer player about yesterday was that we want to go through a little bit of a rationalization process. Because when we get out there on the field and we feel this fear, we feel this worry, we will not be thinking very rationally. So outside of the field, outside of the court, we want to start thinking rationally. And this is where every single day you want to go through a process where you ask yourself, why am I playing it safe? What am I trying to avoid? Right? So with the soccer player, he would say, why am I playing it safe? And that would point him to the fact that he is playing it safe because he does not want to lose the ball. So then he would ask himself, okay, well, does playing it safe actually keep me from losing the ball? Or does it increase the chances of me losing the ball? And his answer, like the answer he gave me, would be that it increases the chances of him losing the ball. So then he would ask himself, what would actually be the quote-unquote safest option because it would lead to the least amount of chances of losing the ball? Then he would say, playing confidently, keeping the ball, trying to use a skill move, playing with that aggressiveness, and then trying to make a pass up the field. So he would go through that rationalization process and remind himself that that is actually the safest way to play. So then he would be going through that on a daily basis to be reminding himself and working to reprogram his mind to see that as a safe option. Then what he would do is, as the game is beginning, he wants to recognize that that is his goal. The only goal he has for the game is to play confidently, which for him means trying to hold on to the ball a little bit more, use some skill moves, and make some better passes up the field. So for yourself, if you are playing it safe, you want to look at what is actually the safest option. Is the way that you're playing right now, when you play it safe, the way that's minimizing mistakes? Or is playing it safe right now increasing mistakes and increasing your ineffectiveness and leading to frustration out there? If that's the case, then you want to work on reframing what it means to play it safe and recognizing the way that you actually need to play that will lead to the greatest chance of success and also the least chance of you making mistakes and you playing poorly out there. Go through, remind yourself of that on a daily basis. This works to reprogram your mind. And then going into games, make sure that you set that as your goal, right? If you need to play confidently, if you need to play aggressively, if you need to go for more tackles, if you need to go for more passes, for riskier passes, right? You want to recognize that that is actually the safest option if it's the option that leads to more success for you and your team. So make sure that you're going through this rationalization process, set that as your new goal, and work away from this natural way of playing it safe that more often than not is not actually a safe option. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. And if you're interested in any of the sports psychology programs I have available, I've put links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.